35% of voters feel America is on the wrong track.
And 37% of them feel the country's problems have gotten so bad we're now in danger of failing as a nation as we come up on our 250th year anniversary.
That's right. Psychologist and author Dr. Jordon Peterson is here to react. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us. What is your reaction to this?
Well, I think if you spend 40 years demoralizing people, that it works. And we've spent probably more than 40 years. Since the mid-60s, we've been on a campaign to demoralize people. I think it started with the Club of Rome types who claimed that the world was overpopulated and that we were all headed to hell in a handbasket, and there's no evidence that any of that is true. I mean, the idea was that by the year 2000, everyone would be starving to death and that commodity prices would shoot through the roof and that the planet couldn't tolerate 3 billion people or 4 billion people, and all that turned out to be utter nonsense. We're richer worldwide than we ever were before. There's absolutely no shortage of resources. Commodity prices have gone down. There were world record harvests this year, and all you ever hear is doom and gloom.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been thinking about that a lot, and because I tend to think about things psychologically, obviously, and my sense is that people who want to garner power to themselves use fear, and I think that's how you can tell real leaders from wannabe tyrants, is that if they're trying to terrorize you into granting them all the power, then they're essentially tyrants and not leaders. And you see that happening everywhere.
Jordan, who are the 35% who think we're on the right track?
Well,
who are those people?
They're probably people who are temperamentally optimistic. You know, I mean, some of what determines people's attitudes about the future varies with the circumstances, but some people, you know, they're so optimistic by central temperament that even if they're in a crisis, they're not going to be upset. So
that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, they also tend to be conservatives because we know as well that the most unhappy people are liberal men, and then I think the next most unhappy people are liberal women.
That was Dr. Jordon Peterson. He was on Fox and Friends. That was just a segment on Fox and Friends. And Dr. Peterson is just talking about, he's a Canadian psychologist, which we've got to tell you some story about that. Apparently, on Torah, where he teaches, they want to revoke his license because they said he needs to do another social media certification because, as you know, Dr. Jordon Peterson is a conservative and most professors are liberal. And because when you're conservative and you're a professor, it doesn't really go well together. So I'm having this show on because you gotta see what Dr. Jordon Peterson is talking about. He's another anti-woke person. He's against anti-woke. He's for truth. And people do not like truth today. And so they try to silence the minority, the conservative voice. And Dr. Peterson will not have his voice silenced. He came to America and he did a segment on Fox and Friends, and it was good. And some of the segment you haven't seen, they talked about the fact that 1 in 4 person does not want to have a child. That is silly. That is wrong. Children are not a burden. Children are a gift from God. So go ahead and have kids. You don't need money to have kids. You just need yourself and a partner. It's not that difficult to have kids. I waited to have children. I was 37 when I had kids, and that's because I pursued career. I pursued 2 careers, a TV career and 3 careers, real estate, TV, and law. And so I was just like, oh, I have to cover everything. But I'm here to tell you, it's the greatest thing to have children. And 1 in 4 person is saying, I'm not going to have kids. That's wrong. You need to have kids, whether you have money or not. We are going to go ahead now and see what CNN is saying about another conservative, Clearance Thompson, and we'll give you our input on that segment. Folks, go ahead and hit that free like and that free subscribe button. I'm Tisha Paul. You are watching U.S. Business News, and we are bringing you breaking business news from the United States. We will be back with more.
We are new this morning learning new details about Clarence Thomas's, the Supreme Court Justice, his life off the Supreme Court bench. This morning, ProPublica broke a new report detailing lavish vacations, private jet trips, and VIP treatment at sporting events, all funded by several billionaire friends. Let's bring in our colleague Tom Foreman to explain. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning. You know, public support in the polls for the Supreme Court has really been dropping. Faith in the court. People just are not convinced that it's operating the way it ought to, and this report will not help.
The most complete accounting yet of the high life of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas shows much, much more than previously known. More private jets, more fancy vacations, more sporting events, all gifts from mega-rich businessmen and documented through public and private records, plus interviews by ProPublica.
Justice Thomas has been living a life of extreme luxury for 30 years, underwritten by at least 4 different ultra-wealthy benefactors.
Earlier reports have revealed lavish gifts to Thomas, including a house for his mother and this 9-day vacation in Indonesia from conservative billionaire Harlan Crow.
I've come from regular stock.
Who also underwrote a film about Thomas's humble taste.
I prefer the RV parks.
Now the list of benefactors includes 3 more names according to ProPublica: David Sokol, Wayne Huizinga, and Tony Novelli. The report says the 4 moguls collectively treated Thomas to 38 destination vacations, including a previously unreported voyage on a yacht around the Bahamas, 26 private jet flights, plus an additional 8 by helicopter, a dozen VIP passes to professional and college sporting events, 2 stays at luxury resorts in Florida and Jamaica, and 1 standing invitation to an uber-exclusive golf club.
I'm Tisha Powell. Folks, go ahead and do us a favor. Please hit that free like and that free subscribe button. That way you'll get the latest breaking business news. So you just saw a segment on CNN with Justice Clarence Thomas. And why this is disturbing is that Hunter Biden, what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. What about Hunter Biden? Have you seen Hunter Biden took in $20 million from Russia, China, Ukraine, and Romania? But we're not getting no news on that, are we? Even a 3-carat ring, we're told, from New York Post or New York Times or PBS. A lot of liberal media, PBS, New York Post, New York Times, they're talking about this Hunter Biden story. How much Hunter Biden, President Joe Biden's son, took in when President Joe Biden was vice president to President Obama. And yet still, CNN is talking about Clarence Thomas trips, 38 trips, some to Jamaica, some to Bahamas. Those places most people go. If you live in Florida, you live in New York, you've been to Jamaica, you've been to Bahamas. It's no big deal, CNN. It's no big deal to go to Jamaica or Bahamas. It's no big deal to see 38 places, CNN. Lots of people have seen 38 places in the United States. What's a big deal, CNN, is collecting $20 million for doing nothing. That's what Hunter Biden did. And nobody's getting to the meat of the story. Why aren't they getting to the meat of the story? Because the liberal media does not want us to know anything. They want us to wake up to the woke joke and nothing else. So what's good for the goose is also good for the gander. If Clarence Thomas can have friends that are rich, Hunter Biden too. Why should Hunter Biden get 20 million and Clarence Thomas don't get 38 trips? That makes no sense, CNN. Report the news on both men, not just one. Let the people make a decision. I'm Tisha Powell. Folks, go ahead and hit that free like and that free subscribe button. Therefore, you'll get the latest breaking business news from the United States. And we will bring you more. I just want to shout out to Fox and CNN for the segments. We love bringing you the breaking news. We love analyzing the news for you with our lens, conservative, or what is it, secular? But you need to get it from another lens. You need to see the news from other views. I'm Tisha Powell. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back with more.